Hello, my friend. This is Emmy van Deurzen's views on existential courage, because what I have aimed to do in my life is to gather up what many people have said about existential courage and many other things, of course. But courage is a very central concept. It's a very important aspect of how you want to live your life. If you are determined to make your life count, my friend. So my personal perspective on existential courage is a tapestry of views winnowed and harvested from others, as is all human endeavor. It is something we produce and create from all the influences and all the reflections that we have absorbed from the world and that we process so as to produce something more complex, more complete, more simplified, more coherent, more cohesive, more useful, more adapted to your current situation in the 21st century. So I bring philosophical and therapeutic insights into my work, always. And my book, Beginning to Live the Art of Existential Freedom, is the summing up of my position last year, if you like. And in there you will find an elaboration of all my ideas about how you can learn to live in the real world with this kind of existential courage, to live for real in a full and passionate manner, with wonder and awe and with an understanding of what it is you're living, with a constant self-reflection and a constant learning process. So existential courage for me is the daily currency of everyday life, my friend. It is what you need to deal with the small nitty-gritty of little problems, with the slightly bigger problems, and with the overall problems and tensions of human existence. You need courage at all levels. And of course, one of the things I'm known for is my 4 dimensions, the 4 worlds view, which is not just about mapping human existence at a physical level, a social level, a personal level, and a spiritual level. No, it is to see how each of those dimensions has its own atmospheres, its own needs, its own demands, and how you have to learn to work with the tensions and contradictions and conflicts at each of those levels of life. Not one after the other, my friend, all at the same time. So it's quite a complex process. And of course the 4 dimensions are interlocking and overlapping. So your structural existential spine comes from doing all those 4 things in your life at any one point. So in the physical realm, in the umwelt, where you relate as a bodily embodied existence to a physical environment and to the things and other animals and creatures of this world and the things in this world, you need to find the courage to accept your biological givens, which implies your biological limits. and to accept the reality of your pain, of your process of aging, of your mortality, of your finitude, without faltering and failing, without giving up, without retreating into despair or hypochondria or denial, or just turning a blind eye. It is about awakening yourself to your body and have the vitality, the courage, the determination, the will to meet whatever challenges come on your path physically, without too much fear and without too much complaining either, my friend. In the social realm, the midworld, where you are encountering other human beings, you need the courage to venture towards those relationships, to risk rejection, which you will certainly experience, to risk isolation, to navigate the complex dialectic between needing to be an individual and to be part of the group at the same time, my friend. To know that you can't be isolated, but you can't let yourself be taken over by the crowd either. So you have to learn to stand firm as an individual, whilst learning to love, whilst learning to communicate, whilst learning to contribute something to the world and to be connected and embedded in human community. In the psychological realm, in the Eigenwelt, your own world, it is about creating a safe space inside you, internally, to have that intimate connection with yourself, that love for yourself, but also that process of self-reflection, where there is this constant dialogue with yourself and a understanding of who you are and where you're going, thinking about your vulnerabilities, thinking about your unmet potential, thinking about past mistakes and the shadow aspects of your own character, taking ownership of your personal identity rather than hiding behind it and thinking you're always going to be the same, being aware that this too is a creative process that is constantly alive and in movement. And then the spiritual realm, the Überwelt, where you are relating to the ideas in this world, where you create meanings, where you hold on to values, where you decide what your purpose is and what your direction is. That too requires great courage, my friend. It's just as difficult to decide what it is you want to be doing with your life, what it is that life is asking of you, and how you are going to meet that challenge, as it is to face yourself, or to face others, or to face nature and the limits of your body. All these spheres have their own demands for courage, and all these spheres require you to live with strength and a willingness to learn, to meet the apparent chaos and create order out of it, to meet unpredictable events and fate, and to meet what sometimes seems like a world that doesn't care, or a universe or a cosmos that doesn't care, because you forget to look at all the structural support you are constantly getting, all the resources that are at your disposition. at your disposal. So you learn to navigate these tensions at all the 4 levels. You learn about that dialectic of living, dealing with the negatives, maximizing the positives, and making those 2 work together for your transformation, your action, your engaged, alive being who you are. It's never about making choices between extremes. It isn't, for instance, choosing absolute radical freedom or complete scientific determinism. It's clearly a combination, a coming together of those 2 opposites. You need to learn to navigate these tensions, my friend, instead of hiding rigidly behind one part of the universe. So when you start to have the capacity to hold these paradoxes and to face them and to work with them and to play with them and to dance and move with them, then your existential courage will grow and expand and it will flourish, my friend. You don't have to have either or. You can live with all of what exists, but that is a very large palette, and you have to master the basics and you have to take it step by step. And the act of courage is to know that you have to get out of the safe place you create to have new adventures and to face new difficulties and to learn that you can always find solutions or ways of being with whatever is required of you. It is about finding true courage, to have the stamina to stick with it and to persist and to be patient and to work with the waves of life, to surf on them and to enjoy that, to not fear the contradictions, but see how that gives you the energy and that gives the power and the force with which you will learn to live your life in a much better, more vital, more creative way. So instead of computing your difficulties, your anxiety, your sadness, your guilt and your loneliness and your isolation as mental illness, start to see these are phases and difficulties that are sometimes overwhelming, but that are also part of what life is about, and that you can learn to work with that in a natural way. Learn to work with the frictions of being alive, my friend. It takes monumental courage to stop treating your own distress as if it's an inner enemy and to befriend it. But that kind of courage will ease your emotions and will make you feel that you can live, that you can meet the difficulties and the challenges, that you can learn about freedom and about anxiety and about guilt and about responsibility and about loneliness and about connection and about everything else that is in the world, and that is endlessly fascinating. When you learn to decode the existential messages of life, you will become transfigured and transformed, and your courage and your personal wisdom will just accrue. And the beauty of life is that as you get older, some of your preoccupations, some of the things that seem so important, some of all those things will fall away. Your brain will simplify, your life will simplify, and if you've done the work all your life, you are now emerging with all these good things that you have harvested along the way. And then you are in a position to come to a much quieter time in your life, where you can see that all these adventures you've been having in living and loving have brought you a great deal of learning, my friend, and that you are now ready for the ultimate act of courage, which is to get ready to let go and to begin to ease into a transitional process that we normally think of as dying. That too requires courage, and that too requires a capacity for surrender, because the surrendering will bring you new serenity, my friend. So your courage is crucial, and the more you begin to live and take your life seriously, the more your courage will grow, as you will stop being frightened of the fragmentation and imbalances of your life, and you will start becoming masterful at all of these layers and be authentically across the physical, social, mental and spiritual realms. Instead of having the desire to escape from life's messy contradictions, you will now be able to stay present wisdom, to generate this vitality. Instead of pathologizing yourself, you will listen to your pain and transform it into insight. Instead of feeling paralyzed by fear of the unknown or of making mistakes, you will come to terms with the realization that every mistake is a bit of learning, and that you can step boldly into the open horizon of choice, understanding, making connections, and elucidating the secrets and mysteries of human existence. If you're interested in all this, get my new book, Beginning to Live, The Art of Existential Freedom, because I lay it all out very clearly in the book. Have fun with that, my friend, and be good to yourself. That's a very important part of the courage to live. Be good to yourself, and life will be good to you in return.